Three names that even the staunchest defender of draft for need would have to consider getting the Texans at 25 overall if they're there. What exactly does draft for need mean? When should you spurn draft for need for an extremely impressive player? We'll talk about all of that and so much more. Answer your questions as the NFL draft is just a mere 15 days away. Welcome into the channel. I'm Cody Stoots. Let's talk some Texans right off the bat. If you want stickers, the sticker link is in the description down below. Fill it out and I will mail those stickers right to you. So what exactly is draft for need versus best player available? How do the Texans operate? And three names for you to consider that aren't an offensive lineman or a wide receiver. I was talking with my good buddy Will Kunkel at Fox 26. He said, what do you think they need? And I said, look, the needs are the same as when the offseason got here. Offensive lineman and wide receiver. That to me feels very much like a need. You don't want to have this crew of offensive linemen, even though they've added three new bodies to the offensive line room. You don't want to have just this crew of offensive linemen competing for ultimately the 5 spots for the Houston Texans in the 2025 season. And this wide receiver room, it feels incomplete. Now, there might be veteran options right after the NFL draft, but they'd be free agents for a reason. So the Texans in this upcoming NFL draft need to get offensive linemen, plural or singular, however you want to phrase that, and a wide receiver. I'd be fine with 2 at each position, but you've also got other things that you need to address. Now, as part of a draft for need, you have to think about how the Texans approach things. The Texans like to put players into groups, and when they move around or when they make a selection, they think about in that next group or tier, if you will, where will those players go? Will they have players available in that tier when they come back to it? So they put players into groupings when they make their draft board. And if that player is there when it comes up again for them to pick, they probably go back to the tier or the group. A great example is last year. They drafted Blake Fisher in the latter part of the second round. Kalen Bullock was their third round pick. Nick Caserio mentioned they considered taking Bullock with that second round pick that they used on Fisher, ultimately opting for Fisher, and they were excited when Bullock came back around, hence some of the excitement in the draft room that you saw when they drafted the safety out of USC. Nick Caserio has also said this offseason they're going to draft good players that fit what they like to do. Now, ultimately, on offense, that's TBD. We don't know exactly what they want to do on offense. I know Nick Caley has said, hey, we're going to accentuate the strengths of our players, but what exactly that is and how you go about that and what he today determines is the strengths is a big question. And certainly with offensive line and wide receiver as a necessity in this upcoming draft, the strengths are a little hard to come by. But if you wanted to wait on those need positions, offensive lineman and wide receiver, I like the meaty part of this wide receiver depth chart. Guys that are, 4 through 10 in most wide receiver rankings. I also like the interior offensive lineman options that should be available on day 2, which is rounds 2 and round 3 of the NFL draft. So the Texans should have options. Are you going to find a future starting left tackle for this team? Probably not. Probably not unless you get very, very lucky. Now, Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas falls to 25. He solves 2 big problems. Offensive line this year, left tackle next year. You take him. I don't think Banks is getting there, though I've mock drafted him to the Texans a million times probably as well. So if you were to eschew need for just overall raw talent, something that could change the game for the Houston Texans, I got 3 names for you. And we'll get to those names here in just a moment. Appreciate everybody jumping in to the live stream. Pawn Shop 84, thank you. I Must Pandaline, appreciate you. Gage says swarm the like button. It's a little thumbs up button down there for you. Good to see you, BG. David, appreciate you. The original J is in here. So is HDAV Traveler. Halston Keller, good to see you. And Ryan, appreciate you for jumping in. Thank you, everybody, for jumping in. If you're a member to the channel, appreciate you. There'll be some member-exclusive content headed your way. Obviously, you get early access to videos if you are a member, as well as some other perks, like you see the custom emojis there in the chat. Your viewing experience is not going to change if you're not a member, but you do get perks if you do end up as a member. So let's get to those three players. And I'll start with the one that I'm having a harder time convincing myself they should draft at 25, and then I'll go with the one where I'd run the card right up there. Let's start on defense. Oh, Cody, not defense. Yeah, defense. Let's start on defense. Jahdae Barron, cornerback from the University of Texas. To me, one of, if not the best cornerback in this upcoming draft. If Jahdae Barron is there at 25, I don't know how DeMeco Ryans doesn't get the shakes over there and rip the phone out of Nick Caserio's hand. Tell that guy up there in Green Bay, turn the card in. Get me Barron. Okay? I don't know how DeMeco Ryans would pass this guy up. And the reason I say that is the ability to create a multifaceted, multi-purpose defensive secondary along the lines of what the Philadelphia Eagles had last year is really hard to pass up. Barron was an outside corner this past year for the Longhorns, but he has experience in the slot, and he was darn good at it when he played slot at Texas. You draft Jahdae Barron, he's playing slot cornerback for you right away, day one. You don't have to worry about the long-term future of Jalen Petrie. You don't have to worry about him being the star linebacker playing the Petrie position. That's out of there. It's now the Barron position for you. He can cover like a madman. He had 5 interceptions this past season, 16 passes deflected. Both of those were an SEC best, on his way to not allowing a touchdown when targeted this year. For the Longhorns, his coverage grade, very good this year from Pro Football Focus. Much better in zone, but still good in man coverage as well. You look at what the Philadelphia Eagles brought to the table last year in their defense in their Super Bowl run. They had a dominant pass rush, and then they had coverage guys that they could trust. A dominant pass rush for the Texans should be there. They should have that dominant pass rush ready to attack opposing offensive lines and opposing quarterbacks, led by Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Sheldon Rankins back there in the middle, hopefully getting a little bit more push overall from the defensive tackle position, and then filling it in with those other defensive ends like Danico Autry, Derek Barnett, and company. They should have that nasty pass rush. And if you could give them just a little bit more time with a draft pick like Barron, you got to consider doing it if you're the Houston Texans. You look at what Philadelphia did last year. Quinyon Mitchell outside, had their other outside guy drop Cooper DeJean down there into the nickel spot, and they were nasty with those 2 safeties on the back end, one of those being a safety that now plays for the Houston Texans, CJ Gardner-Johnson. I just really like that idea, and if Barron's there at 25, man, you might have teams calling you to move up for him. You should make that selection if you're the Houston Texans and you want to go away from need at 25 overall. Now, as I tell you all the good things about these guys, I want to tell you why I wouldn't do this if I was the Houston Texans. Man, this is a very repetitive position that you have players under contract for a really long time. You currently, in this upcoming season, have under contract both your outside corners, and you'll have your outside corners under contract for the next few seasons. Kamari Lassiter has 3 more years left on his contract. And then Derek Stingley, he's in for the next 5 years. So you're not going to need Barron to play outside. So now, though you could consider nickel cornerback a starter, you're drafting a pseudo starter at 25 overall. That's not always great investment for your 25th overall pick. Now, obviously, if Barron plays a ton of snaps for you at that nickel spot, then he's slightly considered a starter. It's a little easier to sell, but he's not really helping you out a ton on the outside. And Derek Stingley, he's played 30 games straight now at this point. Kamari Lassiter really only missed a little bit of time, and it wasn't his fault. It's not like he had a recurring knee or something. It's not like you need Barron to back up either one of those guys in this upcoming season. So you don't have to have this guy. Plus, you've got options to do what he does on the roster already. Jalen Petrie. Now, Petrie could be expensive after this upcoming season, so Barron a long-term option, while Petrie is a short-term option if you don't extend him on his contract. But it is something to consider. It does replicate a lot of the investment you already have, because if your cornerback room was a first-round cornerback on his second contract, highest paid average annual value on the contract extension, a second-round pick, and then another first-round pick, my God, you better be able to cover your tail off. And ultimately, the NFL is an offense-forward league. Coverage guys do affect quarterbacks, but those big uglies up front affect them a lot quicker. I'd be fine with this. I feel like he's a really good player. I probably would convince myself that it's a good pick. I have a hard time thinking that it's going to be a great pick for the Texans at 25. But if they want to not go with need, Jahadae Barron from Texas, cornerback, is a player they should consider. Now, that's the last defender I'm going to talk about. I got two guys over on offense that I'm talking about next. So from Jahadae Barron at Texas, I go to a school that was coached by the former Texas head coach. Mac Brown coached a little school called North Carolina until he called it quits / got fired by the Tar Heels. Now Bill Belichick runs the show. Belichick's going to be missing this guy because for 2 straight years, 2 straight years, Amarion Hampton was one of the best running backs in all of God's green earth when it comes to football. Look at those numbers over the past 2 seasons for the Tar Heels. Over 3,000 rushing yards, almost 6 yards per carry, 33 total touchdowns, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. And I know what you're thinking. Cody, running back? Really, Cody? Running back? That's not good investment. That's not good use of a first-round pick. But let me explain. Joe Mixon was excellent last year. Joe Mixon was very good at what he does last year. Joe Mixon is also to the point in his career when the wear and tear of the running back position catches up to you. And the Texans, we know, are going to want to run the football this year. DeMeco Ryans has mentioned it time and time again. When you're trying to help out a quarterback, you've got to be able to run the football. And I believe even if they don't make massive additions from this point on to the offensive line, they've got 5 big uglies that can get up there and run block a little bit for Joe Mixon. But Joe can't do it all by himself. Joe can't be the only running back. I know that Joe Mixon's been a bell cow plenty of times in his career. He's been near the top of carries and touches multiple times. It's time to give Joe Mixon a break. But you don't have to not have Joe Mixon on the field. Amarion Hampton's number 1 comp, when you talk to people who do the draft analysis, Joe Mixon. What if you had 2 Joe Mixons? What if when Joe Mixon number 1's career was over, you had Joe Mixon number 2 there to replace him? That's what you could have at 25 overall with Amarion Hampton. He is, to me, the clear-cut second-best running back in this draft. He is, in any given year, the number 1 running back on the board. When you think back to previous years, he'd have a chance, an opportunity, a conversation to be the top back in most recent drafts. It just so happens Ashton Genty is in this draft, so Hampton is not the number 1 back, but he's squarely, totally the number 2 back. And there's not a total can't miss element to Hampton, but for what you could use him for initially, which is spelling Joe Mixon, catching the ball when you need to throw the ball to the running back spot, man, you could do a lot worse as a number 2 running back that could then be a number 1 running back than a Marion Hampton. And once you get further past Hampton in the rankings, the chances of those guys eventually being a number 1, they drop off significantly. There's a lot of guys that can be a 1B. There's not a lot of guys that can be a 1A in this class, and that 1A is Omarion Hampton. Now, here's the negative for Omarion Hampton, drafting him at 25th overall. The negative for Omarion Hampton is there are other running backs that have a chance to be in the same zip code as Hampton. Caleb Johnson from Iowa, who should be a day 2 pick. Trey Henderson from The Ohio State University. Maybe even Quinshon Judkins, also a Buckeye and draft pick in this upcoming draft. Those players have the chance to be in the same zip code on the same street as a guy like Omarion Hampton. And if you waited to draft those guys, you could do something else with that 25th overall pick. There are lots and lots of options at running back. I told my buddy Will Kunkel today, it's like Baskin Robbins. By the way, gold medal ribbon, baseball nut. That's the best combo you can get at the old Baskin Robbins. It's like Baskin Robbins. You can find anything you want in this running back class. You want a do-it-all guy that could be a number 1, boom, Omarion Hampton. You want a guy that can hit a home run each time he touches the ball, but you probably can't run in between the tackles, boom, Trey Henderson. You want a thudder, a guy that can just go in there and punish opposing defensive lines, you got Quinshon Judkins. You want a guy that can do it all and has done it all for multiple years at a lesser level with lesser competition or lesser supporting cast around him, you got Devin Neal. You want a specialist that's immediately a third down running back for you that you can draft late in day 3, Kyle Monagai from Rutgers. You got something for everybody when it comes to running backs. So you don't have to buy, necessarily the Bluebell, gallon that is Omarion Hampton. You can get a couple of pints of something else, still get all the flavor that you need. Baskin Robbins analogy, ice cream analogy for you as well. One more player, but I want to get to some of your comments, questions, joys, and concerns. And a big super chat from Risque Barber. Thank you, buddy. He just simply says, fuck Texas. He means the school, not the state. I'm assuming he means the school. We were talking about Jahdae Barron, and my buddy here went to Texas Tech, so not a big fan of the Longhorns. Certainly get it. Appreciate you, buddy, for the super chat. And I got to catch up. We'll see you here in a few weeks here up in the DFW. So let's get to some of your comments. We'll get to that third player here in just a second. We'll turn it over to Landry Locker at 10:30 as well. Reminder, the sticker link is live in the description down below, so fill that out and I'll send you some stickers. Okay. I must paneling. We're talking about Barron says it's football. Everybody gets hurt. Sure. And if you had a Barron to back up the corners, if you had a Hampton to back up Joe Mixon, be pretty nice. You could see a role for those guys. That's another thing I think about with these guys. What do you do for me on game day? That's the old Bill Parcells thing. What can you do for me on game day? Well, I know what Barron can do for you. He can go kick some ass in the nickel spot. I know what Hampton can do for you. He can spell Joe Mixon, and it's like you never have Joe Mixon leave the field. That's what I know those guys can do on game day. Mike says Barron wouldn't be the worst pick, but I wouldn't be happy. You'd have to see how the rest of the draft shows out. I'd have some questions about why they made that pick, but I certainly would understand some of the positives to it as well. Thrillbid Spoke likes Luther Burden, the wide receiver from Missouri, over Omarion Hampton. Sean says yes, but Joe has explosiveness. Omarion lacks it getting past the first level. It's not a total one-for-one comparison, but did you see Joe Mixon break it away and not get caught a bunch last year? Because Joe got caught a bunch last year. It's okay to get caught, 15, 20, 30 yards down the field. And plus, I feel much better that the offense is going to be able to punch it in when Mixon, does get tackled short of the end zone this time. The original Jay says, I'm okay with this. We can have our Sonic to our Knuckles. Yeah. Or you just have two Sonics or two Knuckles. Benji says Henderson or Judkins would be better for the Texans over Hampton. Personal opinion. They certainly fit as a complement back better than Hampton does. Hampton replicates a lot of what Mixon does. Both those guys from Ohio State do something a little bit that Joe Mixon doesn't have. And as Sean says, the position is too deep to get a backup running back in the first round. Sure, but you're planning ahead a little bit because Joe Mixon's not going to be here and be playing at an elite level for very long. Not John says, can't complain about a reliable run game. Risque Barber asks, what's the GM's record on the draft? What's the biggest mistake? The biggest mistake is Kenyon Green. He's had a bad run of things with highly drafted offensive linemen, Kenyon Green and Juice Scruggs. The trade up for John Mechie didn't work out. Now, he didn't know John Mechie was going to have cancer, but John Mechie was injured. His ACL was an injury that you had to contend with and deal with, prior to drafting him. So, WBF Gonzo Tech says the draft hasn't started yet, and I'm stressed out. No stress, just in Caserio you trust, right? That's what Chris says. In Caserio I trust. In D'Amico I trust. In CJ I trust. Baskin Robbins is underrated. Baskin Robbins is underrated. I must Pandaline. Is that a Jaden Blue? You want Jaden Blue? Risque Barber says Tillamook the GOAT. They do have some good ice cream. They got like a brownie batter one that's very good. Panda loves her some Bluebell ice cream. Appreciate the stickers. I don't know where to stick them. Haven't had stickers since I was a kid. I like to put them on water bottles. Like the water bottle you take to the gym. Put them on your computer, on a notebook that you use frequently. Stickers don't last forever. They don't last forever. All right, last player here. You don't want to go need, but you want a game changer. You want a guy that could just really set the Texans up for success. You've heard this name a bunch. You know where I'm going with this one. It's not a cornerback. It's not a running back. I'll just let the new offensive coordinator set this one up.
I like tight ends.
He doesn't just like tight ends.
I love tight ends. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased there.
He loves tight ends. He's got a bias. So do I. I believe Colston Loveland from Michigan is one of the absolute best players in this draft. Now, is there a chance he ends up in the range where the Texans can draft him? Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. How does he get past 14 to the Indianapolis Colts? I don't know. But if he got to 25, run the card up. Run the card up. I believe Colston Loveland will be a better overall receiving tight end than Tyler Warren. I believe Tyler Warren from Penn State is a better total package when it comes to being a tight end, but I believe Colston Loveland is going to be a better receiving tight end. And the Houston Texans have approximately one tight end on the roster past this upcoming season. That's Cade Stover. I know Dalton Schultz has a contract that lasts past this upcoming season. I'm here to tell you Dalton Schultz not going to be on the Texans past this upcoming season. Okay? Perfect time to get out of his contract after those 2 years. Colston Loveland was a monster at Michigan. I know you're saying, 582 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. That doesn't feel monstrous. Look at the other stat. The Wolverines averaged less than 60 passing yards when he wasn't on the field this past year. He was the leading receiver in the national championship game when they won the national championship. He's got effort, something they've lacked in the tight end room last year. He's got want to. He is a guy that you can trust to go out there and be dynamic. He looks like he's trying hard. Again, something they haven't had in the wide receiver room all the time. And I know that people will say, the blocking. They didn't ask him to block that much in 2024. He had a shoulder injury that eventually he had to finish the season injured. They didn't ask him to block because they didn't want him to be blocking with that shoulder injury. But when you go back, you look at 2023, you think about the body type, and man, let me tell you, he put on some weight between his first year and second year at Michigan, or his 2023 season, his 2024 season in Michigan. He put some weight on. And you keep putting weight on that frame, You got a guy that can block for you at the tight end spot. And you don't need him to go one-on-one with a defensive end. You need him to go out there, get in the way of the defensive end, and then get out there and catch the damn ball, because that's what Colston Loveland does. Colston Loveland catches the damn football, and he catches it better than some of the wide receivers in this class. This guy is right away a threat to be a top 10 receiving tight end in the NFL. And it is tough to make that jump from college to the pros, but he's got that type of skill. And now you're saying to yourself, well, Cody, that's a lot of tight ends. It's 4 tight ends because they got Brevin Jordan under contract, and they've got Dalton Schultz under contract, and they got Cade Stover under contract. Yeah, but Loveland's got a lot of high-end receiving potential that I don't know that Dalton Schultz has anymore. And Schultz's want to in the blocking game significantly lower than what Colston Loveland would bring to the table. He's a much better receiver than Cade Stover, and he just played the position a lot longer. And, well, I know he's coming off a shoulder injury. We have no idea what Brevin Jordan is this upcoming season. Nick Haley loves tight ends. Nick Haley is going to affect the tight end room. He's either going to coach the guys up that they have, or they're going to get a guy like Colston Loveland. Now, along the lines of what we talked about with Amarion Hampton, there should be a worthwhile tight end draft pick every time the Texans are on the clock. Now, none of those guys are as good as Colston Loveland, but there's some guys and some players that certainly fill a role in that tight end room for the Texans that could be round 2, round 3 selections, and you go somewhere else with that first round pick. It's also worth noting, I don't know if Colston Loveland's getting anywhere close to the Houston Texans, but my goodness, if he does, if he makes it all the way past Indianapolis at 14, if he makes it past the Denver Broncos at 20, if he makes it past the LA Chargers at 22 and he's there at 25, run the card up, get ready to have a big-time pass-catching presence in the middle of the field at the tight end position. And, oh, by the way, get ready to have a guy that is going to go from the maize and blue to the deep steel blue and the battle red. And he's going to try his ass off in blocking, and he's got the body type to succeed doing it. I really like Colston Loveland. Probably going to draft him in a lot of fantasy dynasty drafts that I got coming up. Going to try like hell to get this guy, because I believe here in the near future, he's going to be one of the most dangerous receiving threats at the tight end position. And you still got wide receivers you can go get on day 2. You still got tight end or offensive linemen to go get on day 2. You can get a project player for the tackle spot on day 3. It's worth noting, we've talked about this on the channel before. The Patriots offensive line, when Nick Haley and Cole Popovich, the new offensive coordinator and the promoted offensive line coach, when they were in New England, they had a bunch of 3rd rounders and 6th rounders, a 7th rounder at one point, a 6th rounder at center at one point, an undrafted center, okay, a 4th rounder at guard. They didn't have highly invested players all along that offensive line. Had some top-end talent at left tackle, had some first-round guys at left tackle, but they didn't have a whole bunch of those guys that were top draft picks at guard, center, and right tackle. Marcus Cannon was a 6th-round pick. Shaq Mason was a 4th-round pick. David Andrews was undrafted. Ted Karras was a 6th-round pick. And Joe Tooney was a 3rd-round pick. They might believe they can just take those guys in the middle of the draft, coach them up, and turn them into players that can help the Texans, not only in 2025, but also in 2026 and beyond. That's another element to this draft. You got to get players that can help you in 2025 and have a clear path to helping you in 2026. So that's where I'm at. The Houston Texans. If they don't go need, let's see what they can do in the NFL draft. Q&A time. I'll take your questions and answers. We're on for another few minutes here until Landry Locker takes over at 10:30. Panda went with Millennium Crunch. Delicious ice cream. Where's the wide receiver room now that Tank's leg snapped in half? When does he do back? I would tell you that you can't bet on Tank Dell in 2025 and you shouldn't plan for him in 2026. You can't make a decision this year with the thought, oh, well, Tank Dell's going to come back. That should be a bonus for you. If Dell's going to come back in 2025, or excuse me, in 2026, that'd be great. You'd love to have that many wide receivers. Because, by the way, Christian Kirk's only on a one-year deal. So let's just pretend in this imaginary world where Tank Dell's going to be back in 2026. You draft a wide receiver in 2025. That guy's kind of the 3 and maybe can play a little bit of slot. And then Kirk leaves. That player moves to the slot and Tank Dell's back as your other outside guy. Like in that imaginary world where Dell's going to be healed in time to do that, it's not a bad situation to be in. Rich Boy Jay says, breakout season incoming for Dameon Pierce. I don't see it. I don't see it. Would be a big surprise. I just don't know that they've trusted Dameon Pierce. Now, if they change to the style of offense that I believe they're going to run, that's probably going to benefit Dameon Pierce, but they haven't trusted him for a couple of years now to put him on the field. Jordan Ortiz says, opinion on Tennessee running back Dylan Sampson. I like him. A little bit smaller, fast, could hit you some home runs, and super productive at Tennessee. But they threw the crap out of the ball a lot, and I wonder if it was kind of a little bit easier for him. He's sort of in that tier 2, almost tier 3 for me, like lower part of tier 2 when it comes to running backs. Mr. Bo on the top, good to see you. B says, Mr. Casserole in the kitchen cooking. Caserio, he's got to cook in this upcoming draft. Sage says, seems like Tate Ratledge draft stock is going up. If they draft Tate Ratledge, the guard from Georgia in the second round, be my guest. 58th overall, turn that card in. I'll be one happy camper. Hell, I might even grow a mullet to show solidarity with the young man. Okay, I already got the nasty mustache just like he does. But I believe in Tate Ratledge. If you just want to grab a guy, stick him at right guard. He played 1,000 snaps at right guard at Georgia. Okay, you want to stick him at right guard? Go for it. I'll be down. Sean Castillo, Jaden Blue with a Blue Bell deal, be on an instant hit. Smooth. Bubba Homeschool with the truth. Most guys love tight ends. Steve agrees with me on Amarion Hampton. He can run like nobody's business. Very good receiver. Good pass blocker for CJ. No other single pick at 25 could give us more. Well, that's intriguing. I don't know about all that. Mike Roberts, Warren is more Gronk and Laporta. Loveland's more Kelsey and Bowers. Yeah, a little bit closer to that. Yeah, and you remember Travis Kelce's no slouch in his prime when he was going out there and affecting things from a blocking standpoint. Risque Barber. FanDuel has the Texans taking alignment at minus 230, wide receiver at plus 380. What other position do you like? I mean, I would think about running back. Should be good value. Would you trade up for Loveland? Yeah, I'd go to 19 for him. And if the price wasn't too expensive, I'd go to like 16 for him. I really would. Loveland had an injury, played well through it. Doesn't sound bad to me. Yeah, he played hurt, and he was still pretty good. Original J, I've been wanting a Kelsey-style QB. Like tight end. There you go. Wanting a Kelsey or Bauer-style tight end. There you go. Train Stover is the hybrid fullback tight end for a year. You can put all 4 on the field at once, create mismatches. Yeah, you can do some fun stuff, mixing and matching. Of course, when Nick Haley was in New England, they had some success with multiple good tight ends. There may not be a chance to take the tight end that fits what they need. I do believe they would like a blocking tight end late in the draft. Jackson Hawes from Georgia Tech is the guy that I would think. Chop says RB2 over wide receiver. Not John, 25, such a weird spot. It is. Sean G, if Loveland was at 25, I can see the conversation to get him, but I don't think moving up to get him should be an option. If the move up dips into more than next year's second, or dips into the third round pick that you've got this year outside of a swap, I'm probably out on that. Conversation. Jordan Ortiz likes the trade back. We'll have a trade back conversation before the draft gets here. Texans taking a tight end plus 7,000 on FanDuel. Pretty good value. Pretty good value. Mike likes Loveland at 18, trading up for him. He's there at 25. You run the card up instantly, unless you're getting a future couple of first and seconds. Yeah, somebody might be moving up for Loveland if he's there at 25. That'd be fun. Only starters with the first 2 picks get backups in the later rounds. That's fair. I certainly understand that approach. Cody Tank Dell was on a live stream saying he's already running. That's great. That's great. He still has a long road to recovery, and you can't bet on him in 2025. Rich Boy J is betting that Dell's going to be back this year, though. B says, what if the Texans end up with Travis Hunter? I don't see any scenario where that works out, though. It'd be awesome. I mean, they could play him at nickel and also play him at wide receiver. That'd be great. They're not getting him. There's just no way. He'd have to be 5 Michelin stars to get that done. Darwin doesn't want to run him back early. Just draft Henderson or Blue a little bit later. Christopher says, need a large number 2 wide receiver on the right side, running back, tight end, defense tackle, guard. 5 needs and how many picks? Let Caserio cook. That's why a move back kind of works, especially if you like some of the day 2 guys. If you could add multiple day 2 picks in a move back, I mean, feels like a pretty safe and easy move back for you, no? Could Hampton go high? At 20 to Denver is kind of a sweet spot for him. Do you think Jared Wilson is better than Jarrett Patterson and Juice Scruggs? Jared Wilson's the center at Georgia. Right now, no. Could he be? Yes, he's more athletic. I don't know if the size is exactly what the Texans would want from the center position. It feels like they're going to put big human beings out there. That's another reason I like Tate Ratledge for this team. He's a big SOB. Okay. He called himself a dirtbag. He looks like he smells bad. I want offensive linemen that look like they smell bad. Those guys feel like they're more impressive and tougher blockers than the guys that look like they don't smell bad. When an offensive lineman looks like he smells bad, he goes up a little bit in my book. And Tate Ratledge looks like he smells bad in a good way. In a good way. All right, that'll do it for the live stream here. Appreciate everybody for jumping in. Reminder, the stickers. You can get the stickers in the link in the description down below. Houston football, S&L, Eat Good, Sleep Good, Be Good. The new version of the Era of Good Vibes. The rare one-time only print of Damn It, Bobby. And a little Angry Cody there for you as well. They show up to you in an envelope in a little baggie, so you get to keep the baggie and do whatever you want with the baggie. I don't know what kind of things you could put in this baggie, but I think you could put things that are useful in this baggie. That's how they'll show up to you, in an envelope right there. Just fill out the link in the description. It's right there. It takes you to a Google form. You fill it out. Landry Locker's coming your way here right now at 10:30. This will auto send you over to Landry's video. Let him know that Cody Stoots sent you there. It's my hope for you. It's my charge for you as well. I want you to eat good. I want you to sleep good. I want you to be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. The Locker Room with Landry Locker coming your way next. S&L tomorrow at 4 o'clock. We have, by the end of the week, a spot for the draft get-together on the 26th. You don't want to miss it. We'll announce that on S&L this week. Thanks for watching, everybody. Landry Locker with the Locker Room coming your way right now.